Hey friends, and welcome back to A Simple Truth. We are looking at Solomon's achievements, and we saw yesterday quite a bit of that. And we also once again saw his interactions with King Hiram. Again, that was the king that was helping him furnish the temple and supplying all the wood, so many different trappings, I guess. So we took a look at that. And we also saw God's visit with him. Today, we're going to be delving into Proverbs, so 25 and 26 of Proverbs. Mostly wise sayings, really what separates the wise from the foolish. And that's, the vast majority of what these focus on is what sets the wise man apart. So again, 25 and 26. So chapter 25. These are also Proverbs of Solomon, which the men of Hezekiah, king of Judah, copied. It is the glory of God to conceal a matter, but the glory of kings is to search out a matter. As the heavens for height and the earth for depth, so the heart of kings is unsearchable. Take away the dross from silver, and it will go to the silversmith for jewelry. Take away the wicked from before the king, and his throne will be established in righteousness. Do not exalt yourself in the presence of the king, and do not stand in the place of the great. For it is better that he say to you, "Come up here," than you should be put in lower in the presence of the prince, whom your eyes have seen. Do not go hastily to court, for what will you do in the end when your neighbor has put you to shame? Debate your case with your neighbor, and do not disclose the secret to another, lest he hears it and expose your shame, and your reputation be ruined. A word fitly spoken is like the apples of gold in settings of silver. Like an earring of gold and an ornament of fine gold is a wise rebuker to an obedient ear. Like the cold of snow in time of harvest is a faithful messenger to those who send him, for he refreshes the soul of his masters. Whoever falsely boasts of giving is like clouds and wind without rain. By long forbearance a ruler is persuaded, and a gentle tongue breaks a bone. Have you found honey? Eat only as much as you need, lest you be filled with it and vomit. Seldom set your foot in your neighbor's house, lest he become weary of you and hate you. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a club, a sword, and a sharp arrow. Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth and a foot out of joint. Like one who takes away a garment in cold weather, and like vinegar on soda, is one who sings songs to a heavy heart. If your enemy is hungry, give him something to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For so you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. The north wind brings forth rain, and a backbiting tongue an angry countenance. It is better to dwell in the corner of a housetop than a house shared with a contentious woman. As a cold water to a weary soul, so is good news from a far country. A righteous man who falters before the wicked is like a murky spring and a polluted well. It is not good to eat much honey. To seek one's own glory is not glory. Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls. And chapter 26. As snow in summer and rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. Like a flitting sparrow, like a flying swallow, so a curse without cause shall not alight. A whip for the horse, and a bridle for the donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. He who sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off his own feet and drinks violence. Like the legs of the lame that hang limp is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Like one who binds a stone in a sling is he who gives honor to a fool. Like a thorn that goes into the hand of a drunkard is a proverb in the mouth of fools. The great God who formed everything gives the fool his hire and the transgressor his wages. As a dog returns to its own vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. Do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. The lazy man says, "There's a lion in the road, a fierce lion in the streets." As a door turns on its hinges, so does a lazy man on his bed. The lazy man buries his hand in the bowl. It wearies him to bring it back to his mouth. The lazy man is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. He who passes by and meddles in a quarrel not his own is like one who takes a dog by the ears. Like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, "I was only joking." Where there is no wood, the fire goes out, and where there is no talebearer, strife ceases. As charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so a contentious man to kindle strife. The words of a talebearer are like tasty trifles. They go down into the inmost body. Fervent lips with a wicked heart are like earthenware covered with silver dross. He who hates disguises it with his lips, and lays up deceit within himself. When he speaks kindly, do not believe him. For there are 7 abominations in his heart. Though his hatred is covered by deceit, his wickedness will be revealed before the assembly. Whoever digs a pit will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone will have it roll back on him. A lying tongue hates those who are crushed by it, and a flattering mouth works ruin. So you can see in a lot of this stuff, just immediately you're struck with prudence. At least I'm struck with a lot of prudence and recognizing the importance for discernment. I think that's specifically what stood out to me in a couple different places, actually. 25, 21, and 22, we have, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For so you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. So again, prudence, not reacting to how people act to us. And I think that's very, very important to me. I have a tendency to get really riled up, mostly online, and I never respond. So I just let it get to me, and I huff and I puff, and I don't do anything or say anything, which is, that part at least is prudent. But I shouldn't let that get to me, purely to remember I am not of this world. So again, having prudence in that. And then immediately also what stood out was 26, 4 and 5. Do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. And so as I was doing the pre-reading for that, I was like, well, what do I do? And I think that's exactly that, is have that discernment. It takes discernment and a little bit of prudence to recognize, who are you speaking to? What's the situation? When should you answer people and when shouldn't you? And it's the same, not to go all meta on this, but it's the same with interpreting God's word, right? It takes discernment. Don't just take one verse and try and build an entire theology off one verse, but what is the context saying and what is the entire message saying? And if your interpretation is not consistent with the word, don't vet it with your own feelings. Vet it through the word. So yeah, I just thought that was so interesting, is don't answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also be like him. Answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eyes. It takes discernment. Because I have very often played the part of the fool. And that discernment is often a very big part of that, is not taking the time to prayerfully go through that. Anyway, that is what stood out to me. As always, friends, thanks so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day. See ya.